Good evening, everybody. Dr. Hampton, as you know, a board-certified family and obesity medicine doc, and I'm here with a good friend, Monique Travis, who is here to walk with me as we talk about metabolic disease tonight. And we're going to have fun with it. We're going to have some questions to throw on the screen and give you an opportunity to make some comments about the answers to the questions. And we're going to see if we can get some good answers. The goal is to teach you that metabolic syndrome, which I'll explain in a moment, is the cause of probably 70% of all the chronic diseases that we suffer from. So why do I have Monique here? Because Monique was able to relieve herself and greatly reduce the risk of 5 medical conditions. And I want her to share that story in a moment. We just did a podcast. This is our post-podcast show. And during the podcast, we walked through each of those diagnoses in great detail. That episode will be released, of course, this coming Friday. And we just wanted to give you guys a little extra meat on the bones by explaining what metabolic syndrome is and just help you understand how important it is that you understand. I know it's a holiday weekend, and of course, we're talking about diet and nutrition and exercise, but what better time? Even if it's an after Labor Day, commitment that you make, I think it's time for us all to make a commitment. So share this video. Share that podcast. If you don't have a podcast app on your phone, you can probably find the podcast on the, just search Dr. Tony Hampton, Protecting Your Nest on the internet. Apple has it, Google has it, Spotify has it. You can listen to those podcast episodes on the computer as well, but it's even better to find somebody to help you download an app to your phone. And again, what we do today is different than what we shared on the podcast. So I just wanted to say that out loud. So welcome. If you are hearing a question that resonates with you and you want to join in and answer a question, please do, because I don't want to put all of that on Monique. I want her to have some help. I want you to be her lifeline and help her answer these questions. That's going to really help us. And I see a few people, Ms. Bowman, joining in. I really appreciate you joining us. So let's get started. Let's start with introducing our friend. She's been a patient of mine for years, and over the last year or so, she finally heard my cry. I was like, please, please, please do the lifestyle, and she finally was able to do it. So I want you to just introduce yourself and maybe even share some of those medical conditions you were able to get rid of or at least reduce greatly in your life since you started this journey.
Hi, well, my name is Monique. And like I said, I have been a patient of Dr. Hampton for over 10 years. I'm also a registered nurse. And for the past several years, I've been suffering from GERD, migraine headaches. I had a recent diagnosis of Sjogren's syndrome. I suffer with depression and obesity. And throughout, I say maybe the past 5 years, I've been, heavily afflicted with these conditions. And within the past 9 months, with diet and lifestyle change and just exercise, I've been able to reverse most of those conditions greatly to the point where it just gave me a totally different life now.
Yeah. And what's cool about first of all, thank you for your service as a nurse during a pandemic, for Christ's sake. So thank you for your service. And, what better person to help be healthy than a nurse who has a lot of work to do these days. Yeah. And during the podcast, you shared some of the limitations that you experienced. And I just want to kind of revisit that real quick. Tell us some of the things that you couldn't do because of all these medical conditions that you're now able to do.
Yes, especially working bedside nursing. It's really hard on your legs, on your knees, your back. I was having pains in my shoulders, my hip, right. My neck, just everywhere, my hands especially. And it affected my work life greatly. And I just thought that I just couldn't do bedside nursing anymore as a result of it.
That's right. And to be honest with you, You couldn't. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
I really
happens. So what we have to help people understand is that most medical conditions, if you think about, and I jotted it down, you said Sjogren, and for those who want to look that up, we talked about it extensively in the podcast, but Sjogren's is SJOGREN syndrome. Look that up. Listen to the podcast. You'll get more information. Depression is a devastating condition that'll limit. You weren't even able to just be active with your family.
No.
Crazy. You talked about, of course, obesity. You lost how many pounds?
About 34, 35.
34 pounds in less than a year, probably 9 months or so. And then the migraines you were having every single day.
Every day for the past 3 years. Yes.
And could you imagine, guys, your nurse who's trying to be there for you in your time of need, and she can't be there because she has migraines, right? So she was able to get, and I want to give the example. The last one was the heartburn, the reflux, and I kind of saw your head. I can't even see it, but I can feel your head spinning as I gave an example of why that gets better. And so what I said during the podcast is that GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, is not a proton pump inhibitor disease. In other words, those omeprazoles and Nexiums and all those medicines that we take, you don't have a deficiency of medication. And you also don't have an acid problem. I know you've been told that for years, you have an acid problem. You don't have an acid problem because the stomach was designed to handle all that acid. In fact, the pH of the stomach is between 1 and 3. The pH range is 1 to 14. So 14 being basic, 1 being acidic. So the stomach can handle that. The stomach loves acid because the steak I ate last night had to be digested by that acid. But the esophagus, which is connected to the stomach, it can't handle it. And there's a little lower esophageal sphincter that connects your esophagus to the stomach. So if you have that connection going, right, and this sphincter is not working, then the acid from the stomach can go into your esophagus. Now, this is what you have to remember. When you have a belly that's larger than it should be, it puts pressure on your stomach. And your stomach is like a balloon. So if I put pressure on my stomach, right, it's going to make the top part of the balloon swell up, which will then let the acid go into the lower esophageal sphincter. So my point is this: if you don't put pressure on that stomach, then your reflux may not be a problem. And I think that's the reason why Monique's reflux went away. So again, if we get to the root cause of the problem, and that's what Monique did, then you won't have to worry about taking these PPIs or proton pump inhibitors. By the way, it increases the risk for diabetes. By the way, it increases the risk of cognitive impairment and memory loss. So why would you want to take that anyway, right? So again, for those who are taking those medicines, I'm not saying stop your medicine. What I'm saying is let's work on the lifestyle, and then you won't have to take the medicines down the road. So, but today's conversation is about metabolic disease. So in order for us to teach that, I need to share my slides. As you know, my purpose in life is to be a teacher. So Monique, do you mind going to school with me?
No, I don't mind at all.
All right. So what we're going to do is go to school, and I'm going to get my screens to share. I'm still learning this stuff, so give me a chance to do that. And after I share my slides, what we're going to do is give our viewers a chance to learn and walk with us in knowledge. So again, we're talking about metabolic syndrome. And as we wrap up this conversation, you'll learn that protecting your nest will help you prevent metabolic syndrome. So thank you again, Monique, for walking with us today. So we're going to learn about metabolic disease. We're going to learn about all these medical conditions that are related to that. And then we're going to learn how to reverse metabolic disease through lifestyle. So as we look at the first slide, I want you to understand that the World Health Organization, they've been in the news because we're thinking about COVID and the CDC and the World Health, and they're helping us to figure out how to manage this. But the definition that they give for what the word health means is that it's a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So in other words, health is about trying to optimize your body, not about waiting for disease to happen and treating it. That's a completely different paradigm compared to what our current health system does. What we do is we diagnose, manage with surgery, medication, or we refer to somebody. But instead, we should say, well, what's the cause of this stuff and fix it so it'll never come back again. And that's what Monique is doing and helping us to understand. So I just want to put this in front of you. In the United States, this metabolic syndrome has criteria. It's really 5. I'm giving you some extras because other places in the world also consider insulin resistance, and they also consider microalbumin. In America, it's about central adiposity. And what that means is that if you got a big belly, right, for men, it's got to be over 40, and for women, over 35 inches. So that's the first thing. That's number 1. Number 2 is a low HDL. They got HCl, but it's an HDL. And that's the thing we measure. That's considered the good cholesterol. And then your triglycerides, you don't want those. If they're high, you have problems. So you want your HDL to be higher, but in this case, it's low. And you want your triglycerides to be low. In this case, it's high, meaning that's a bad thing. And these are the numbers. And then you want to, if you have a blood pressure over 130 over 85, and of course, if you have a blood sugar that's elevated, fasting over 100 or so, that's what we call metabolic syndrome. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. We got the extras for the other countries. So now let's get to the fun part. So I want you guys to vote, put it in the comments. How many of the 5 criteria will we need to make this diagnosis? That's the question. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And so put your answer in that little box down there in the comments, and let's see if we can come up with some thoughts on that. So I want you to think about that for a second, and then I'll respond. And then I don't know if Monique has any thoughts. Monique, you have any thoughts on this one? Do you think you have to have 3, 4, 5, all of them to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome? What's your best guess?
My best guess would be 3.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. All right. We winning the prize tonight. So I think Monique's right. And I hope you guys, I just realized that during this live broadcast, I'm looking at my slides. I can't see the answer. So I'll just have to allow you guys to vote, and then we'll make fun of you later, okay? So it is what it is. So I'm still learning this technology. So let's go to the next question or the next concept. And this is really an important slide because during our podcast, we talked about, Sjogren's and depression and reflux, and we talked about obesity and migraines. But here are some other medical conditions. When I started this, I said, of the things that make us sick, right? Metabolic syndrome may be responsible for 70% of those things. So if that's true, and we already know the number 1 killer is heart disease, right? We already know that. So that's on that list of this image that you see. How many people do you know that's got dementia? Too many. And since we started our obesity and diabetes epidemic, all grounded in nutritional decisions that were made, right? We've seen this explosion of dementia because Amy Berger, who was a guest on my podcast, I think episode number 7 or so, she talked about how dementia can be reversed if it's mild or so through diet. It's all the same disease. This condition called non-alcohol fatty liver disease. You have a fatty liver, which wreaks havoc on your body. It's a dietary disease related to metabolic syndrome. Of course, elevated blood pressure, your cholesterol is all about your diet. If you fix your diet, then your cholesterol numbers will go to normal. Your triglycerides plummet when you eat less starch and sugar, and your triglycerides, your HDL goes up, which is a good cholesterol. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, a lot of young women that I see who are struggling with getting pregnant and having cysts on their ovaries and having hair growth on her face and, irregular periods, all of that kind of stuff is related to metabolic syndrome. And of course, insulin resistance, which is, in another way, speaking about diabetes, but it's all about making too much insulin because you consume food that has a lot of sugar in it, and it leads to that problem. And of course, cancer. Dr. Feynman, who was on my last podcast, he's doing research on, in fact, I should post that. I put it on Twitter. I'm going to post Dr. Feynman's research. For $10, you can get his book, and the $10 goes to keto and cancer research, because they're finding that the right diet will also prevent cancer cells from growing. If you hadn't seen a video I made in honor of our superhero, Mr. Black Panther, you may want to check that out, because in that video I talk about the importance of how a low-fat diet or a low-carb diet, high-fat diet, can also reduce your risk for cancer. And of course, we got diabetes. So let's go to our next slide. That's my buddy, Dr. Feynman. This guy literally was the editor of Nutrition and Metabolism magazine. So he's an important figure, and he is the one who said that metabolic health is the absence of metabolic disease. That's kind of a no-brainer, but I really encourage you guys to check out his podcast episode where we talk more about metabolic disease, and he really knows what he's talking about. And again, I'll post his research. For $10, you can help this man do his research at New York State, where he works. So anyway, let's go to our next question. The number of Americans who are metabolically fit, in other words, the number of Americans who they're healthy metabolically. Let's look at our options. Half, 1 in 4, 1 in 8, 1 in 16, 1 in 32. I got this question from the Metabolic Multiplier. And the Metabolic Multiplier, if you just search that and you search that with, keto-friendly resources, you'll be able to see great websites they link you to, like the Diet Doctor as an example. So, okay, Monique, you're back on the hot seat. Everybody put their answer in the comments so I can give you a hard time later. So what do you think? Number 1, 2, 3, or 4? What answer would you say? And if you're putting answers in the comment, just put a number and we'll know which one you chose. Which one do you think is the number of people who are metabolically fit in this country?
I would say 5, 1 in 32.
Yeah, and that would be a good guess because we're out of shape. But luckily for us, that's not the right answer. but it's actually number 3. It's 1 in 8.
1 in 8.
Yeah, it's still not good, And if you think about that, that's only about 12%. So the sister that's to the right here in the slide, we're trying to get to where she's at. With a smile, and that's pretty much where you're at. You got a smile on your face, and the funny thing is that all you're doing. Tell the audience what kind of exercise you're doing.
I'm walking. I walk about 2 to 3 miles in the morning, and then about 2 to 3 miles in the evening.
You're walking.
Yeah.
We're not on the Wheaties box. We're walking. So everybody listening to this conversation, she lost 34 pounds. Over 9 months, reflux gone, obesity, 34 pounds, migraines were every day, gone, depression, gone, Sjogren's syndrome. Symptoms are pretty much gone. So listen, guys, is there anybody listening to me that can't walk 3 times a week? Yeah. Come on, guys, we can do this. So, and then we can become metabolically fit. And as the slide would suggest, you get your ideal waist measurement back. Guys with those big bellies, those are risk factors for heart disease. You're not diabetic anymore. None of us were born to be pin cushions, right? Imagine if you've never done this, try sticking your finger tonight. It's not fun. We don't have to do that if we get metabolically healthy. And then, of course, we want to, we don't want to be hypertensive and want to have normal triglycerides and HDLs. And for all those people out there looking at their total cholesterol and their LDL, we don't even focus on that. So that tells you we may have to reconsider the medication and why we're taking it. We have to get metabolically healthy, and then we won't have to take those medicines. And I think the key is to get better first and then get off the medicine, not the other way around. And then, of course, we won't have to take medicines if we do this. So let's go to the next slide. And we got another quiz. It says, which of the following is the best way to achieve metabolic health? Is it nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, adequate sleep, or positive thinking? If you think about it, I cheated. That's that nest. Of those nest things, anybody that follows me kind of knows the answer to this, but what do you think, Monique? And everybody put an answer in the comments. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or what's the answer?
I think the first one would be maybe number 1, nutrition.
Yeah, I think you're right. So we got 2 out of 3. Look like we may have a chance to get the prize. We're working on it. So yeah, it is nutrition. And again, I think how you think matters. These 2 images will be on my website. And I know I've been promising my website forever. I'm really hoping by the end of this week coming up, it'll be up. But nutrition is the most important. Your metabolic health has a lot to do with what you put in your body, because all those neurotransmitters and different types of elements in your body, micronutrients and all of those things, they work together. The hormones, they work together. And we need to give them the proper signals in nutrition for them to work. And what you see in front of you is an example of what a low-carb, high-fat diet looks like. And yes, you can eat the egg yolk. And if you think about it, the nuts and seeds on that plate to the right, fatty. The avocado is fatty. The egg is fatty. And the berries are not high in sugar. So that's the way to eat. And if you eat that way, that'll be the secret. So let's go to the next image. And basically, it's just saying, my nest and my rope acronym, I have to put it in front of you because some people may be seeing this for the first time. Those are the root causes of disease. And if you think about Monique, as you look at this slide, I want you to look at it and tell me which parts of this slide that you actually changed as you made your transition. Which parts?
All of it, but the nutrition, definitely exercise. And with the exercise.
Oh, the IF, by the way, is intermittent fasting. I wanted to make sure you knew what that was.
Right. And so I did that as well, the intermittent fasting. And with the intermittent fasting and nutrition and exercise, I was able to have less stress and actually sleep more.
Yeah. Yeah. And sleep is a beautiful thing. Yeah. In fact, I'm about to go to sleep right now if you keep talking. I love sleep. And what about anything at the bottom, how you think or the relationships? Or
my relationships improved greatly. I've been more social, happier, had more energy. And I already, was really aware of, the unnecessary pollutants that you put in your body. So I've been more cognizant of those. And I've just had more, great emotions and greater life experience as a result of the life.
And I love it. And all of those things are connected, guys. If you have, if you're really, doing everything well, but your life experiences are bad or your relationships are bad, you're going to still not feel complete. So it's important. We're human. We need to have relationships with people. We need to be in contact with people. So I want to make sure you guys don't minimize that. I bring that up because we're in COVID season. And I know a lot of people are struggling right now because of that. So I understand, even if it's virtually like we're doing tonight, I'm actually reaching more people this way. I wasn't doing this before coronavirus kicked in. So I think it's a great opportunity to kind of be in your living room and enjoy each other while we're, learning together. So I love that. So thank you, Monique, for giving me some feedback. So here's another question. We're kind of doing the nutrition piece, the N in the nest. And that the question is, which dietary approach is best to treat metabolic disease? Again, I got this answer from Dr. Feynman when he was on a podcast. So if you listen to the podcast, you would have heard him give the answer. But don't forget, he was the editor of of Nutrition and Metabolism magazine. I mean, if you think about it, that's a significant role. And he's a biochemist, and he knows his biochemistry because he teaches medical students. And he gave an answer to this question. So Monique, when you think about the DASH dietary approach to stop hypertension, that's a diet that the cardiologists and the people in the medical community have used mainly to reduce salt and eat more fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and things like that. We all are familiar with a vegetarian diet. We're all familiar with a low carb diet. And of course, we're familiar with a low fat diet. So which diet do you think is the best approach for a metabolic disease?
I think the best approach would be a low carb diet.
Yeah, and I think that I agree. And the reason why I agree is because a lot of what causes problems in the body starts with sugar and starch and highly processed grains. So that, you wouldn't think that steak in this image was a healthy option. And for those who don't have the resources with it, maybe grass-fed is better. But if it's a steak and you don't have, and A1 sauce is mostly vinegar, you can actually use A1 sauce because it doesn't have a lot of sugar and fructose and stuff added. Yeah, that steak and a non-starchy side, vegetables. In this case, it looks like a salad. Can't gain a pound with that. Can't have a high insulin level with that. Can't have metabolic disease with that. So in fact, the people who are carnivores, they eat meat all the day and they don't have metabolic disease. Who'd have thought, right? What doctor recommends you to eat meat? That's crazy, but that's what they do and they're successful. So Dr. Feynman said carb restriction is the fastest way to reverse metabolic disease. And keep in mind, I showed you the slide earlier of all those medical conditions that are associated with metabolic disease. Literally the main ones you care about. Who wants to get dementia? Who wants to have a heart attack, right? Who wants to have diabetes? Right. You can get rid of all of that by stop eating the foods that are harming us. So thank you, Dr. Feynman. And again, I'm going to share his keto research in the very near future. Now we're in the E. We're talking about exercise. Which type of exercise is best for metabolic health? And the first is high intensity interval training. So you do it intensely and then you take a little break. Then you do it intensely. And that's what HIIT is. You have moderate cardio. That's when you're on a treadmill and doing things like that. And then, of course, resistance training is dealing with weights. And the question is, all of the above or one of the four? Which type of exercise? So put your answer in the comments. And while you're putting your answer in the comments, we will allow Monique to give her professional opinion. What do you think, Monique?
I think the best exercise for metabolic health would be maybe moderate cardio.
Yeah, and you would think so.
Yeah, yeah, you would think.
You would think. And I got good news for you this time. It's the last choice. So it's a little bit of a trick. You remember when we were in school, and we were talking about on the podcast how hard nursing school is. Oh my God! So it's all the above. Now a lot of people are hearing about the high intensity interval training because it's been a hot thing, and I do believe that it's a great way to get the most bang for your buck in a short amount of time. You just go intense for 20 minutes and you're done, and you get the benefits of having exercise for an hour, right? So, however. What they're finding is that they all help. So, so you choose what works for you. I like the resistance training a little bit, to be honest. And maybe that's just a guy thing, but I say do a little bit of each. What works for you? I would do walking first, like our friend Monique is doing, and then as you get your body into the exercise rhythm, then you can start adding these other things. But whatever you do, don't make it where you're harming yourself. One of the things that can stress your body is overdoing it. You don't have to overdo it. Even if you decide I'm just going to be a walker, that's sufficient as long as you're eating the right food, keeping the stress down, and getting your sleep. So the next slide is, kind of showing the weights, because I told you I like weights, but, it is what it is. So that's a guy thing. And let's move on to the next part of the nest, which is sleep. So which of the following sleep aids should not be taken long-term? Magnesium is a great supplement for sleep. It relaxes everything. Epsom salt has magnesium in it. It's good for your blood pressure. It's good for so many things, but Magnesium is a great sleep aid. Melatonin, we all are familiar with that melatonin helps with the circadian rhythm and helps us to get back into our sleep cycle. Calcium, believe it or not, works with magnesium, is helpful. And then valerian root is a nice supplement that you can take. So the question is there one you shouldn't take for the long term? You should take a break from it. And you got 2 and 2, Monique. So we get kind of tight if we're going to get the prize. It's getting a little tight. so everybody put their answer in the comment section. But for Monique, what do you think is going to be our most popular answer for this one?
I think number 2, melatonin.
Amen. So we still in the game. So you won, and I'll tell you why you won. Melatonin, our bodies make that naturally, and if we consume it too much, then our bodies will stop making it. So we suppress our own melatonin production when we overconsume melatonin. So we want to, if I take a trip to another time zone, I may take melatonin to get back into rhythm so I can look like this beautiful cat. So, but if I keep consuming it, so I take magnesium fairly regularly. I do not take melatonin regularly, but I keep it. So when I need it, it's there, and I'll take it for a week or two, maybe a month, and then I'll go back to magnesium. So good job. 3-2, we still got a chance for the prize. All right. So we go to our next category, and it's stress. And the question is, which of the following don't reduce stress? Again, we're just doing our nest. All of these things help with metabolic disease. And so the question is, which of the following don't reduce stress? Is it meditation? Is it cognitive behavioral therapy? Is it alcohol? Is it spending some time in nature? So which one of the 4 will not reduce stress in your life? What do you think?
I would think it maybe would be the alcohol.
Yeah, and Jamie Foxx, what did Jamie Foxx say, Monique?
Blame it on the alcohol? Yes.
He said don't blame it on alcohol, so why are you But you got it right this time. And it's kind of a trick question, because if you have one little drink at the end of the day, it probably will relax you, to be honest. However, if you look like sister girl right here,
Exactly.
that may be, I don't know if she just sleeping or if she, did too much, but you doing, looked like she did too much. So if you do too much alcohol can be stressful to your body. And truth be told, a lot of people drink alcohol to help them sleep. You probably don't get quality sleep when you consume alcohol. So I would not recommend it as a sleep aid. And I know you feel like you're getting better sleep, but based on the studies I've read, you do not go into a high quality, rapid eye movement sleep when you consume alcohol, particularly if you overconsume it. For women, no more than a glass. For men, no more than 2. I generally say periodic alcohol is fine. You probably shouldn't be doing it every day. And then we go to the next question, which is, which of the following will improve your ability to think positively, right? Now, practicing gratitude, right? Spending time with positive people. I think you had mentioned you were doing some of that. Spend a lot of time trying to help others to be positive. And then the last is to listen to motivational, inspirational people. So put your answers in the box. Which of the following, which of the following will improve? Maybe will not improve is what I was trying to say with that question, because all those, we have a lot of good things. So thank you I just did a spell check in my brain. So what do you think, Monique?
You said, so the question should read, which of the following would not improve?
Right.
So I think maybe number 3.
Yeah. And why do you think that? Why do you think that's the right answer? Why do you think that, Monique?
Because you're putting a lot of effort into trying to convince people to be positive, and sometimes it can be a little draining, especially at a good place yourself.
I think you're right, and I I think we're both positive people, but
Mhm.
if you spend your life trying to change people, you're probably going to be spending your life trying to change people.
Yes.
So it just let it go and
Mhm.
work on yourself. And what I know about you, whenever you come to visit me, you bring a lot of positive. Even though you were going through stuff, you always come in
Yeah.
with a smile, energy, and that makes my day better, right?
Mhm.
But I can't depend on you coming there for me to have a good day. Does
Yeah.
it make sense? I have to
Exactly.
I have to internally be in a good place. And as the sign suggests, one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. And I do believe that with all my heart. So I'm glad that you got that right, because you got 5 right and only 2.
Yay.
Yay. So we've been able with that quiz and what we've talked about, we've been able to think outside the box a little bit. We when you listen to the podcast, you're going to hear us talk about root cause, but really the root cause is the nest and the rope. And when you think about what the nest and the rope mean, what it means is you understand the things that can sabotage your ability to be healthy. So if you apply the principles that come with the nest and the rope, and listen to my first episode of the podcast that's on the podcast app, because I go into detail about what the nest and rope mean. And then you look at those 11 things and say, which areas do I have gaps? And you work on those gaps, right? So if you look at this image to the left, you have roots, right? And all these roots are the root causes of, diseases, right? And
Mhm.
we will never sprout into these diseases if we take care of our roots. It's our foundation. So always remember this acronym, because it just helps us to, in a very simple fashion, understand what we need to know to be, healthy with that. So I just wanted to share with that presentation what metabolic disease is, and I'm kind of looking. I appreciate everybody who, kind of participated, and I see a lot of the answers here, and they're kind of all over the place as I look at them. It's kind of funny, but the good thing is that people participated. Uh, Miss Bowman participated, and Sanjay Lewis participated, Jacqueline Cooper. I know some of these names, Jay Joy Robert and Renee Olson, and highly favored Keisha. You gotta love that, right? Highly favored. Cicely Davis participated, Marie Jones participated, Cecily Davis, and Janice. So I just want to thank you guys for participating and just being engaged. We will walk together. If Monique can do it, she's not
Yes.
doing it because she's a nurse.
Not
She's doing it
at
because
all.
there's something that clicked on the inside
Mhm.
that motivated Monique to say enough's enough, and never felt better. When was the last time you felt this good?
It's been years.
Years. And even as a 52-year-old who feels like a 32-year-old, I can tell you, when you do these things, you will feel great. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody's going to have the same results Monique had overnight. I'm just suggesting that you're going to be in a way better place
Mhm.
in 6 months to a year if you just make these changes. So, bite-sized pieces. Uh, any advice that you would give to people who are afraid or nervous about making a decision towards lifestyle, Monique? Anything you would say to them to kind of nudge them towards making these types of lifestyle changes?
Just take the first step. 'Cause that seems like that's the hardest thing. Just take the first step. And once you do that, just try to be a little consistent.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because it'll definitely work out. Just take the first step and be consistent with it.
That's right. And I think that in life, whether you're thinking about your career,
Mhm.
whether you're thinking about your relationship, maybe your first step in a relationship is to, while you're listening right now, if she or he's not with you, send them a message right now. Not about the nest in the rope, but about I love you. I'm thinking about you. You know, go online and find a beautiful image of something that would inspire them or make them feel good, and work that out. I see a message. that someone, Ohio's Best Peach. What an interesting name. And shout out to Deborah also, who just said hi. And she said, I just got Dr. Iflin's book and can't wait to start reading it. So maybe, I don't know if you know who Joan Iflin is, Monique, but she wrote, she's a processed food addiction expert.
Okay.
And so anybody listening who's not sure they have a processed food addiction, go back to the YouTube video we did with Dr. Joan Iflin. We also did a podcast with her, and find out if you got a processed food addiction, because you may need to utilize her resources. She has great resources, because if you got a problem, the sweet potato pie shouldn't be on your counter right now.
Exactly.
And I want to say, shout out again to Highly Favored. She thanked us for being here. And I want to thank you, Monique, because it takes courage to share your story, right? It takes courage to, just to stand before your own truth and say, it's time for me to do this. The good news is that others will be blessed, not just at the hospital, not just in the, other places of care you provided care, but in the rest of the world. Because as other people see this video, rather tonight or tomorrow or next week or next year, they will know that if she can, yes, I can. I'm not running for office, but yes, I can. You know what I mean? So any final comments that you want to share with anybody, that's anything that you want to share, and maybe in the world of I guess that I'm curious about that migraine. Could you just comment one more time about what your life was like having migraines every day and not having migraines by doing intermittent fasting, low carb, and exercise? Tell me a little bit about that, and we'll wrap up with that.
Right. Well, I was having the headaches every day, and I was alternating between ibuprofen and Tylenol on a daily basis, to the point where my kidney function was starting to get impaired.
Wow.
I had to cut back on the ibuprofen a little bit, but it didn't work for the headaches anyway.
Right.
Just trying to find some relief. I would use ice packs, frozen vegetables out the freezer, whatever I could to just find a little relief. And I had to deal with that. I even tried magnesium. I tried anything I could find.
Yeah.
Nothing helped.
Yeah.
Once I started the intermittent fasting and the low carb and the exercising, I noticed the headaches were not coming at all.
Right.
When I did feel a slight headache coming on, it would just stay it would stay really mild, relatively mild. It wouldn't progress as they have in the past. And I was able to get by with, maybe just drinking some water, drinking some peppermint tea. And they weren't as severe. So definitely have lessened in intensity and frequency. Yeah.
That's crazy. And what I love about what you just said, two key points. One is, I said magnesium should help with headache. I've always said that. However, not compared to lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's no supplement you can take that will out compete with lifestyle, but it does help. Number two, you said something very key. You said ibuprofen. You couldn't keep taking it because it was affecting your kidneys. And one thing you forgot to mention, which you mentioned on the podcast, it affected another part of your body, the stomach.
Oh, my stomach, yes.
Ulcers.
Yeah, the ulcers, yes.
So what you're doing is, we put a Band-Aid on our problem with ibuprofen. Shout out to the people who make ibuprofen. And we never get to the root cause of the problem.
Yeah.
And now we have side effects, or ulcer, at a very young age. Yes. And we have kidneys starting to fail at a very young age, because we never got to the root cause. So this is why we're doing this, guys. Every single week, we're going to walk closer and closer and closer and closer towards a model of healing. And I had to bring Monique here because I want to bring a patient, as they say in the neighborhood, every once in a while. So you can hear the perspective. I don't want you to think we're making this stuff up.
Not at
Now,
all.
what I'm going to do is I had Royzell Johnson, my first guest. He was my second episode. But guess who I'm going to bring next week? I'm bringing Dr. Christine Baer, who is a doctor like myself, board certified in obesity medicine. She was in Chicago, decided to go to San Diego, and she's going to talk about the things she was able to fix with this, not only in her patients, in herself. And then one thing that I know she fixed is migraine headaches, doing a keto diet. So healing is possible, guys.
Yes.
This is not a fantasy. It's not make-believe. And all you have to do is think outside the box, like that image I showed you. All we need to also do as a culture, as a health, we really need universal health care, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
We need to be able to provide education, and we're going to do that with our health system, and we're going to try to do our best for that. But we need to understand, you have to demand to your health system, you need to help me to heal. You need to teach me about nutrition. You need to teach me about exercise, how to reduce stress, etc. So again, that's what we're going to wrap up with. I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. I promise to continue to educate you. Thank you, Monique, for joining the Hampton team. I'm proud of you. I thank you for this. And for those who are listening, make sure to share this video. For anybody that you think may need to learn about metabolic disease, make sure you get the podcast app on your phone. And with that, everybody, because it's being recorded before Labor Day, I wish everybody a wonderful Labor Day. Enjoy it with your families, but do it safely. You don't have to be hanging in a group with anybody. In Illinois, where we live, they had 5,000 new cases of COVID yesterday. 5,000. So there's no need to hang out with folks. Stay in your immediate family, and you get on Skype and talk to the rest of them. All right. All right, everybody.